Hi, guys and girls. So you have clicked on this link because you wanted to go through the chlorine files with me instead of just reading them on your own. And so I'm happy to have you with me and assist you in this way. You probably remember this guy. Let me get him in the right spot. Mr. Juan Tuño. He is our student detective, not a suspect. And he has provided us with these chlorine files to dig into and to figure out what we think about chlorine as our first of 5 possible pollutants in the mystery of the dying fish. Well, here's the first thing. Look at this. The chemical test results for the chlorine downstream in the Faux River was negative, no chlorine. But then there's a biological test for chlorine, and it says underneath it right here, the 3 samples of water below were gathered by Juan Tuño. Please count the number of water fleas in the samples and analyze the results for yourself. So we can see this top one is supposed to be a view under a microscope right here. And we can see how many water fleas should be in a healthy stream. Now, upstream from the water slide, that means before the water slide's wastewater would have been part of the river, part of the Faux River, we can see what we have. And then look at this. The biological test is showing downstream. We can easily count that there is just 1 water flea. So you might be thinking those two things really don't make sense. Why would these water fleas, these bioindicators, be dying off if there wasn't chlorine? So it's something for us to think about. Now we have a couple of little clips from newspapers to read through. So here's our first one. It says chlorine spill, hundreds of fish and wildlife dead. At Waving Waters Waterslide Park, located 800 miles north of Gray Bay, workers accidentally spilled 250 gallons of chlorine yesterday, killing hundreds of fish and many other wildlife in Fiasco Creek. When used safely, chlorine cleans our water and prevents diseases. The World Health Organization estimates that 25,000 children die from waterborne diseases each day in parts of the world where chlorinated water is not used. So chlorine is a good thing in the right amount. Now, here's a headline that says E. coli outbreak. E. coli from water park in neighboring state kills 1 child. One of the 26 children who got sick with E. coli bacteria in the Shady Park wading pool died yesterday. She is the only child in the nation known to have died this way. The children were probably contaminated by an infected child who was in the pool, scientists said. Normally, bacteria are killed by chlorine in the pool, but in this case, bacteria survived long enough to spread to other children. Investigations continue into the pool's chlorine content. So here's a case of not enough chlorine resulting in tragedy. Now we have our next small article, our final small article, and it says Faux River passes chlorine tests. A local water park voluntarily, that means they did not have to, collected samples from the Faux River downstream from where they released their used water. Chemists tested the river water and announced that there is no chlorine in it and it is safe for wildlife. I knew we weren't killing the fish, said Cannonball, an owner of the park. That's why I volunteered to collect the samples to be tested. So now let's go here. Okay, this is something interesting that Juan Tuño has provided us. We have an email conversation between 2 important people. So this one is from Cannonball to his chemist, and then the chemist responds back. So Ken is saying this: the Board of Supervisors is going to have a short meeting about whether we should be shut down. We've got to keep the public on our side and make this chlorine thing go away. Before the board meeting, I'm ordering the water downstream from our dump pipes be tested for chlorine by a chemist. But check out the water slide schedule. You'll see why I think the chemist should only collect samples on Tuesday night. Now, here's what the chemist says back. I thought we were finished with this after the chlorine test the chemist did. I guess not. Okay, now wait a minute. Yeah, this is back to Ken. Now I hear that some mixed up kid, who do we think that is? Some mixed up kid thinks he's going to save the water slide by doing a different kind of test. He's going to test the water in the faux river where we dump our water slide water by counting water fleas. I guess the idea is that if there are water fleas, then there's too much chlorine because they're real sensitive to it or something. Any ideas about what to do? This is getting serious. So these first two are Ken, both to his chemist. Now, finally, we have another one from Ken. I like your idea of buying a bunch of water fleas and dumping them in the water just before the kid does his test. Can you be in charge of ordering them and taking care of what needs to happen? Of course, I'll keep this confidential, which means private. P.S. Let's talk about a raise for you soon. So I was mistaken to think this was back and forth between the chemist and Cannonball. These are all directions to Cannonball. Okay, now he mentioned something about the water slide schedule. So let's look at this together. Notice that the pool, the water slide park, is open from 8 to 7 every day. Notice that every day they are doing bacteria tests at 7 in the morning, except for Wednesday when they do them at 1 in the afternoon. Now let's look at all this extra stuff that's going on Wednesday and Tuesday. So Tuesday, they pump new water from the river into the holding tanks, and then they add the chlorine. So that is not putting anything back into the river. But check out this. At 6 a.m. on Wednesday, they release the used water from the pool and they put it all into the river. And then they pump water from the holding tanks, new water, back into the pools. So Wednesday at 6 in the morning, they are actually testing, or excuse me, they're actually dumping their wastewater. And look again when Ken told the chemist to test. Only collect samples Tuesday night. Think that through. That is an important connection. Now, this last little part here talks about bioindicators, and it says, what are they? Bioindicators are animals and plants that are sensitive to changes in their environment. Bioindicators, listen again to that term, bioindicators indicate or show that changes are taking place. Different bioindicators are sensitive to different types of changes. Scientists study changes in the populations of animal and plant bioindicators to see if an environment is healthy. Water fleas, also called Daphnia, are tiny animals in the same family as shrimp. There are water fleas in almost every body of water. They eat algae and microscopic animals by sweeping them into their mouths with their waving legs. Many kinds of fish eat water fleas. Because water fleas are very sensitive, we can use them as bioindicators to tell if there's a problem in the water. Small amounts of chlorine can kill water fleas, so a drop in their numbers could tell us that there's a chlorine pollution. There may be chlorine pollution, but a lack of water fleas could also mean these three things: that there's not enough dissolved oxygen in the water for them to breathe, the water is too acidic or too basic, or that there are unhealthy amounts of a chemical other than chlorine. So your job now is to use this file, and you do have a plain copy of this without me talking too, and answer the questions that are the chlorine, what do you think questions.